The Riddle of the American Sphinx Part 2. I wonder if anyone has ever thought it was funny how the human brain connects objects to memories? Right now, as you read or listen to this story, your brain is forming thousands of connections, like a roadmap filled with points of interests to stop in later and say, hey, do you still have that coffee? So I believe, mind you, I didn't before that, our forefathers left clues or markers behind for us. Special places they visited because at some point in the past another person was writing a story like this, or finding a spot on the map man hasn't seen in some time. Do you think anyone has seen the rainbows of sand or the cellar in Oklahoma? Something tells me no. Now back to the arrowhead. As I turn it into my fingers, exploring its perfect symmetry, I wonder where he got the stone, the one from which the arrowhead was fashioned, I mean. Nothing like it occurred in the vicinity of the kiva. And other than me and a few things that hide from men, no one walked the grounds around the kiva for some time. The idea conjures images of a man dressed on wolfskin screaming, no man has walked this land. I wonder, had it been made elsewhere as a trade item? Or had the raw materials been transported in weave baskets to reach a patient craftsman? Where too was the source of clay from which the pots had been fashioned? One of the grand problems with archaeology, we are ready to say this is how it is, without questioning the things that matter, the what, who or where. This is important questions. Who was this? How did this get here? I would show you what man has needed to know, but we still have long to go. But the arrowhead says more to me than I'm an instrument of death. It speaks all too clearly across centuries of industry and commerce, and it's not a primitive voice, either. Stone Age technology did more to win the world for man than the sun bringers at Los Alamos, than all of the air forces with their flying machines and patent disregard for life. Many of us forget humans can be monsters as they grow. The odds against survival were enormous, the victories few and not particularly sweet. But as ours should be, perseverance was the goal. By the time the tiny arrowhead was executed so perfectly, life on the desert had become relatively sedate. Why not? The dangerous beast was mostly gone, the Athabascans were still gnawing bones in the frozen north, and the conquistadores were yet centuries in the future. The trade routes spread across the deserts like a spider's web. Cities and villages rose and fell, and man were everywhere, building and exploring. Then all was changed. The heat rose steadily, the water went away and never returned, and the sand and wind came to stay. Just like it did in Egypt, just like it did here, and just as it will again. The sand becomes the destroyer of worlds. Man can burn it, the water can make it wet, but the sand will hide it. A few days after the discovery of the perfect arrowhead and the strange symbol at the sequestered kiva, I drove to Canyon de Chile. This is a place where you would have to go to understand what I am about to say. How could people have ever lived here? But the sad fact, they did, and did very well. I decided to sleep beneath some gently restless cottonwoods at the Monument Campground. I was practically alone except for a group of large mangy black dogs, maybe wolves, that was extremely curious about my every move. One of the old cottonwoods had been in the late stages of death, worms had picked away at its bark, and along the top was home to a large buzzard. Its groans and bird speak made me wonder if it had much to say or if it was just hunger. So I tossed it some pressed bread and dried meats I had in my pack to shut it up. It was early in the year, around the first week of May. Other than my loudmouth companion and the dogs that sat along the hill, a few retired snowbirds tried to sing me their songs. School was in session, so the summer vacations crowd was missing, too. I learned a long time ago, that nature only has time for one. Sure, it's fine to bring a friend, but to really feel or understand whatever it is meant for you to find, you must go along. The previous evening, a Navajo woman and her 2 children came into the campground selling rugs, with no luck. I would have bought every one of them, but I was operating on a shoestring budget, so there was no money for frills. To this day I wished I broke down and bought one, as something was special about them. On one of the four, they had the same symbol. Hopefully, she would hold it for me, that is if I could track her down, so I gave each of the kids $1. I guess if I got too hungry there was the buzzard or maybe the dogs. She thanked me and went to another campsite. I have still yet to find her. The Airstream millionaire across the way had purchased a bundle of specimens at Burnt Springs and 2 Gray Hills. The woman said she was from Tuba City. Her brother had driven her and the children up away from the sand. Away from the sand. That apparent paradox bothered me slightly while I was waking the next morning. It was a splendid desert morning. The buzzard had decided it was better to go bug the millionaire across from me. A slight breeze blew from the west, cool to the skin, and a family of orioles were singing and feeding their brood in one of the cottonwoods. As the sun rose it kissed the peak of the mountains in the distance. This image will be forever burnt in my mind. There was the circle and the peak of the mountain made the eye and nature were watching. Lizards were out of hiding, spread-eagled on the rocks to catch the first rays of the rising sun. I made coffee and sipped it leisurely at one of the wooden tables. Where, I wondered again, could one go to get away from the sand?